In the pale winter light of a January morning in Detroit, Michigan, three boys, Leo 9, Micah 7, and Caleb 5, pushed through the revolving doors of Great Lakes Trust and Savings. Their winter coats were thin, patched in places, and their boots left wet, gray slush tracks across the polished granite floor. The bank smelled of lemon cleaner, printer ink, and the faint metallic tang of old money. Elliot Grayson, CEO of Great Lakes Trust, had just signed off on the final phase of portfolio optimization. That morning's email had eliminated 320 teller and operations jobs across Michigan and Ohio, outsourced to a call center in Manila. The move would add $87 million to the bottom line and make the stock pop 4% by close of business. Elliot stood in the executive atrium, charcoal overcoat draped over one arm, scrolling through congratulatory texts from board members, feeling the quiet satisfaction of a man who had outrun the Rust Belt town he grew up in. The lobby security guard noticed the boys first. "Kids, this is a members-only institution. You need to..." Leo stepped forward, small backpack slung over one shoulder. In his gloved hands, he held a dented metal lunchbox, the kind factories used to give out in the 1980s. "Sir, our dad said if anything happened to him, bring this here and ask for the man in charge. We need to check our locker balance." Elliot looked up from his phone. He saw three small figures dwarfed by the marble columns, faces flushed from the cold, eyes wide but determined. A ripple of amusement moved through the nearby tellers and clients. The head teller, Karen, smiled thinly. "Sweethearts, we don't have lockers like at school. This is a private bank. Maybe try the credit union down the street." Elliot crossed the floor, loafers clicking. "What's this about?" Leo met his gaze without flinching. "Dad worked at the River Rouge plant. He said the bank keeps something safe for us. He wrote it down before the accident." Elliot exhaled through his nose. "This isn't a storage facility. Security?" Micah tugged Leo's sleeve. He said to show the key. Leo opened the lunchbox. Inside, wrapped in an old shop rag, lay a single brass key, large, heavy, stamped with the faded Great Lakes Trust logo and the number 847. Attached was a small tag faded in ink. "Grayson, do not open without beneficiary present." The lobby noise dropped away. Elliot recognized the key style immediately. It belonged to the old safe deposit vault level, decommissioned in 2002 when the bank went digital. Only legacy industrial accountants still use those boxes, accounts from the big three auto bailouts, union strike funds, and the 1998 to 2001 wrongful death settlements after a series of fatal press line accidents at Ford's River Rouge complex. Elliot had been a junior VP then. He personally reviewed and signed the escrow agreements that placed portions of those multi-million-dollar settlements into long-term, no-touch trusts. The funds were meant to provide lifetime support for surviving families, housing, education, medical, guardianship, without ever touching principal until the children reached 25. He hadn't thought about Box 847 in 20 years. "Follow me," he said, voice flat. He led the boys past the teller line, through a discreet door marked Executive Access, down a carpeted corridor to the private client lounge. Karen trailed behind, uneasy. In the lounge, Elliot took the key from Leo and inserted it into the wall panel. A soft chime. The screen above the panel woke. "Safe deposit access, box 847, beneficiary verification required." He entered his executive override. The inner door hissed open. Inside the small vault room, box 847 waited. Mid-size brushed steel. Elliot turned the dual locks. The door swung outward. No cash stacks, no jewelry. Just two items. A thick manila envelope sealed with red wax, stamped beneficiary note, "Do not open except in presence of minors." A single ledger printout, dated 2001, showing the initial deposit, $22,400,000 from Ford Motor Company / River Rouge Wrongful Death Settlement Fund, allocated to the family of James Jimmy Whitaker, deceased, line worker, press operator. Current balance line, $41,780,000. Principal plus compounded interest. No disbursements. Zero. Not 1 cent had been withdrawn in 24 years. Elliot felt the room tilt. He remembered Jimmy Whitaker, big hands, quiet laugh, the guy who always brought extra donuts on night shift. The accident report had been clinical. Hydraulic press failure, instant. 3 other men died that day. The settlements were meant to be ironclad, automatic interim payments for survivors, reviewed annually by the trustee bank. Great Lakes Trust was the trustee. Elliot had signed the oversight protocols himself. He opened the envelope with shaking fingers. Inside was a single sheet of lined notebook paper, folded once, written in Jimmy's careful block letters. To whoever opens this box after I'm gone, my name is James Whitaker. I worked the line at Rouge for 17 years. I missed birthdays, little league games, my wife's good cooking because I was pulling doubles to keep the lights on. When the press came down, I didn't feel much, just knew I wasn't going home. I made this trust so my boys, Leo, Micah, Caleb, would never have to stand in a bank begging for what's already theirs. I told them, if I'm not here, go to Great Lakes Trust, ask for the man in charge, show the key, check the balance. Don't let them be invisible. They're not charity cases. They're my sons. They carry my name, my calluses, my love. If you're reading this and they're standing in front of you, small, scared, and cold, remember, you hold more than money. You hold the last thing I could give them. Do right by them. Jimmy Whitaker, River Rouge, 2001. Elliot's vision blurred. He read the letter aloud, slowly, every word landing like a hammer. When he reached the end, the lounge was silent except for Caleb's small sniffle. Micah whispered, "Does that mean we can pay the heat bill?" The man said no more extensions. Leo looked up at Elliot. "Sir, what does the screen say?" Elliot turned the monitor so the boys could see. The number glowed, $41,780,000. Leo's lips moved silently, counting zeros. "That's a lot of zeros." "It's yours," Elliot said. His voice cracked on the word. "It's always been yours." He knelt, first one knee, then both, on the carpet in front of 3 children who smelled faintly of wet wool and wood smoke. He picked up the $50 bill he had dropped earlier in the lobby. Karen had quietly retrieved it, tore it in half, and let the pieces fall. "I owe you an apology," he said, "not just for today, for every day since your father died when this bank didn't do what it promised. I signed the papers. I forgot the people." Karen stood frozen in the doorway. Clients in the hall had gathered, phones lowered. Elliot stood. "Karen, lock this room. Executive hold-on box 847. No access without my direct authorization." He turned to the boys. "We're going upstairs. Some things shouldn't be talked about in a hallway." In the executive conference room, long mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the frozen Detroit River, Elliot sat across from the 3 boys. He pulled up the trust file on the wall screen. The history scrolled. Annual reviews skipped. Interim payment authorizations never processed. Trustee alerts ignored because low-priority legacy accounts were archived after 2010. He read aloud the disbursement clause. Immediate monthly support for housing, utilities, food, medical, education, and court-appointed guardianship until age 25. Principal preserved for beneficiary majority. Not one payment had been made. Leo asked the question that broke him. Why didn't anyone tell us? Elliot had no good answer. Because it was easier to look at numbers than names. Because I thought the system would take care of itself. It didn't. He called the Wayne County Family Court that afternoon. Emergency hearing set for 2 p.m. He personally drove the boys, with Karen as witness, to the courthouse. In the small courtroom that smelled of old coffee and photocopier toner, Judge Evelyn Carter listened to the story. When Elliot stood and said, "Your Honor, the failure is mine. Great Lakes Trust was trustee. We released nothing. I'm asking the court to authorize immediate distributions and appoint an independent guardian ad litem to oversee the bank going forward." The judge's eyebrows rose. "You're voluntarily requesting supervision on your own institution?" "Yes, ma'am. We've proven we can't be trusted alone." The judge signed the emergency order, $25,000 monthly interim distributions starting that day. Retroactive back payments for rent, utilities, medical debt, and guardianship fees. Temporary guardian. Aunt Marlene Whitaker, Jimmy's sister, who had been raising the boys in a two-bedroom apartment on the east side. Back at the bank, Elliot gathered the entire executive floor in the main atrium. He spoke without notes. 24 years ago, a man named Jimmy Whitaker died on the line at River Rouge. His family was awarded $22 million in trust. We held it. We grew it. We never gave them a dime. Today, 3 of his sons walked in here cold, hungry, and asking a simple question. What is our balance? I treated them like an inconvenience. Many of you saw it. Some of you laughed. That stops now. Every legacy trust in our system, every single one tied to industrial accidents, union funds, or community settlements, will be audited by close of business Friday. Interim payments will be activated retroactively. No family will have to stand in our lobby to beg for what we already owe them. Effective immediately, 40% of all executive bonuses tied to those trusts will fund the Whitaker Legacy Initiative, full college scholarships, trade apprenticeships, mental health services, and housing assistance for children of Michigan workers killed or injured on the job. He paused. And one more thing, the next time any child walks through those doors, any child, no matter how they're dressed, I expect every person in this building to remember today. Because the number on a screen is never the full story. The full story is the people behind it. He stepped down. No applause. Just quiet nods, a few tears, and the sound of people opening laptops to start pulling files. In the months that followed, 214 legacy accounts were reviewed. $2.1 billion in delayed disbursements went out to families across the Midwest. Aunt Marlene moved the boys into a 3-bedroom house in Dearborn Heights. The trust paid off back rent, medical bills from Micah's asthma, Leo's glasses, Caleb's speech therapy. The Whitaker Legacy Initiative awarded its first 47 scholarships that spring, named after Jimmy and the other 3 men who died that day. A small bronze plaque appeared in the lobby. A balance is more than money. It is a life protected. J.W. Elliot kept Jimmy's letter in his wallet. Every morning he touched it before opening email. On the wall outside his office hung a photograph, him sitting on the porch swing of the new house with Leo, Micah, and Caleb. All 4 smiling, snow dusting their shoulders, the Detroit skyline faint in the background. The $41 million did what it was always supposed to do. Paid for heat that never got shut off, food that never ran out, school supplies, summer camp, college visits, and the slow rebuilding of 3 childhoods interrupted too soon. But the real locker that opened that January morning wasn't in the vault. It was in Elliot Grayson's chest, the one he had kept locked for decades, thinking success meant distance from the people who built the world he lived in. Years later, when people asked how Great Lakes Trust changed, the story had always started the same way. One winter morning, 3 little boys walked into this bank to check their balance. And the man who thought he already knew the answer had his whole life measured instead. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. If it moved you even just a little, please leave a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more heartfelt stories to life every single day.